Steve Jackson edits the Australian's Media Diary. And Steve, if you thought Colin Jacquiot, the radio show, was
From
good,
the Australian, here's what's on the front. I'm Claire Harvey. It's Tuesday, August 19, 2025.
Is going to eclipse anything they did on their radio show. It's going
Federal
to be
Court
bigger
Justice
than
Michael
Ben
Lee
Hur.
has slugged
so what's happening?
Qantas
You're
a
reporting
whopping
today
$90 million
ARN
for unlawfully
is
sacking
calling
1,800
Jacquiot
ground
as a witness
crew
against
during the
Carl
COVID
Sandilands.
pandemic.
That's what they're planning to do.
$50 million
so
of that
we'd
will
all
be
wondered
paid to
what
the
had happened to
Transport Workers
Jacquiot and
Union,
she'd come
and
out
$40
previously
million
and
to
said,
be shared
hey,
by the
look,
workers.
there's a little bit of misunderstanding about my role
The
and
big
what's
wigs of
happened with me
economics
in
and politics
all of
gather in
this.
Canberra
And then all
today
of a
for
sudden she
Jim
went
Chalmers
quiet
and
again.
Anthony
And it turns out,
Albanese's
according to my
Economic
sources,
Reform
she is
Roundtable.
actually
You can follow
tipped
the
an
news
absolute
live all
bucket
day
on
at
Carl Sandilands behind the scenes when she
theaustralian.com.au.
first went to management. And now they're planning on calling her
A
as their
huge
star
cultural
witness
change is
and pitting
underway
Kyle
as Nine
and Jacquiot
Entertainment
against
tries
each
to
other in
fix
court
its
as they
blokey
try to get their
image.
way-
And
as they
now
try to
it's
earn their way
senior
out of this,
female
$200
figures
million
feeling the
lawsuit.
heat.
Yeah, so
Today,
Kyle is
Media
suing for
Diary
$85
editor
million,
Steve
the
Jackson
balance of
on the
his
drama
contract.
inside
And this
Nine's
is the part
culture
of a
revamp.
court case where the lawyers do something called discovery. They try to work out what they've got, who they can call as witnesses, what they can get from the other side in terms of emails and text messages and so on.
Steve Jackson
So they will be
writes the Media
seeking
Diary
all-
column in The
all
Australian.
of
And this week he's broken a
communications with
story
Jacquiot
about a
throughout
former
time.
senior executive
He
at
says he
Channel
hasn't
9,
been allowed
Amanda
to
Patterson,
communicate with her
who
since
received
this
a
all blew
big
up
discount
on air,
at a clothing
a
store.
little while ago.
Jacko, what's this story
What
about?
do they think
Amanda
Jacquiot
Patterson was in
would
charge
say
of
in
Nine's
court
news
that would help
operations
them?
in Queensland.
I
mean, this is the problem, right?
She
you
became
don't
a
do
big
discovery
story last year when
unless you
she
have
was
some sense of what
unceremoniously
you're going to
sacked
find,
via a
because it
Zoom
has a
call
nasty
by the
habit
network's new
of
head
uncovering
of news
all
and current
sorts of
affairs,
unwanted
Fiona Deer.
information.
That led to her
So
suing the
from
company for
ARN's point of
unlawful
view, they know
dismissal.
what
She
Jacquiot's
received a
full
big
complaints
payout,
are,
we understand.
and they've
Confidential
alluded to it
payout
in court.
February
Tom
this
Blackburn,
year.
SC,
Fast forward a few
who's
months,
the senior
and
silk
she's out
representing
having
ARN,
lunch
said this
in
isn't
inner city
limited
Brisbane with a
to
couple
what
of
Kyle said
girlfriends,
on air on
and they
February
decide
20 on their
let's
last
go
show
do a
together.
little bit of clothes
It's
shopping.
not just about
Amanda
that 10-minute
apparently had a
tirade
suit
where
she
he
wanted
attacked
to
her
return.
professionalism.
They've
She's not
gone
just
to
said, "I
quite a
can't
high-end
work with
boutique,
Kyle because
Colours
he's
and
had
Paddy
that
on
one
James Street in
blow-up,"
Brisbane,
that this is a
and
pattern
Amanda's
of
picked
behaviour,
up $4,000
that
worth
he's
of
acted like
clothes,
this
a
to
red
her
velvet
for years,
suit,
and it's
a couple of
finally she
jackets.
snapped.
And all this
of
is
course,
by
then
the
you've got
by.
Kyle
It's
coming
fine,
out
just
the front of court going,
three women
"Hey,
out
it's no
doing a little
different
bit
to
of shopping. But when
how I've
she's
always
gone to
behaved,"
pay
and
for
that's
it,
exactly her point.
there's been
Yeah, well, he
something of an
will
incident.
be
Now,
calling as
there are
evidence for him,
a
no
few
doubt.
different versions of what happened.
Countless
Some people say
exchanges where
that
he has had a
Amanda
go at her,
requested a Channel
where
9
she's had a go at
discount
him, where they've
worth
both participated in
50%.
some kind of
So,
revolting
markdown
stunt
of
or other, asking a
$2,000.
13-year-old
Yeah.
girl if she's had sex or...
And this is
or,
designed
getting
for
people to
people
urinate
who are
and
on
guess
air
who's
because it's
making the
an
sound.
amazing way to promote your clothing, right?
I love it when courts
The idea
get
is
into
that
this
the
really
dresses
sort of
or the garments
unedifying
are seen
matter
on
and
air
barristers
or
have
on
to say,
a
well, Your
TV
Honour,
star social
there's
media,
a program known
and
as
it's
Colin
effectively
Jacquiot and,
a very cheap ad for
this
them.
is
So there's some
a
suggestion
skit
she
on the show
requested
about
a Channel 9
urination.
Yes, my learned
discount.
friend has correctly
Of course, Patterson,
adduced
she
who was
tells me
urinating
that
at the...
she was simply offered
I mean, the
that
point
she'd
that
gone
Carl
in
will be making
and
is
that the
that
sales
this was
assistant
what
had said, "Hey,
ARN was
weren't you
buying
at a
from
fashion
these
show
two
a
as
year ago,
contractors.
sitting on a
And
nine
that's what makes it
table?
different from a
I
normal
recognise
employment law
you.
matter, right?
Would you
Normally an
like the Channel 9
employee would be able to say,
$2,000
I've been
off.
dudded in some way, I've been unfairly
Now,
dismissed,
this
or I
interaction
was bullied,
has gotten back
or,
to Channel 9,
something
and they're
along
not
those lines.
happy.
Contracts are
Obviously,
much
they've
more
parted ways
complex,
in
aren't they?
acrimonious
ARN
circumstances
was
with
contracting
Patterson,
these two
and they've
individuals
gotten
to
in touch
deliver
with her
a
and said,
product
"Hey, you
called
can't go
the Kyle
around
and Jacquiot show.
pretending you
Now,
still
they
work
can't
for us or
deliver that.
claiming you
Surely
still work
ARN
for
is
us."
right that
Patterson
Kyle has
says she
failed to
never
deliver
claimed
the
she
product.
did.
Yeah,
What's
they are right.
undeniable
He's
is
saying
that
that
she knowingly
obviously he's
accepted
happy to turn up and do it on his own. He's happy to work with any co-host.
It's whether
they
she
throw at him.
has
so he's
been,
trying to come up with solutions.
letting people think that she still
The
works
problem
at the network,
he has
or, according
here,
to some
and
people,
it's
even
quite
allowing or
devastating
wanting
from a
people to think
human.
that she's
You know,
still
when I
some sort
put
of media power broker
the
for the
journo
network.
media gossip writer cap
Did she
to one
repay the
side
money
for
in
a
the end?
moment, is
My
that
understanding is no, she hasn't
these are
repaid the money,
two
but
people
nor has
with
anyone
27 years of
actually
history.
requested her to repay the money.
27 years of text messages, 27 years of emails, 27 years
There's another
of,
senior
let's
Nine
face it, there's
entertainment
gonna be
figure
jokes,
who's
there's
been
gonna
featuring
be,
in your column. This is Amy
remarks about
McCarthy, the
colleagues.
executive producer
There's
of The
gonna be
Current
all
Affair,
this unsavoury,
famous for very elbows out
unseemly
journalism.
communication,
ACCA is a show which
correspondence between
takes no prisoners. It's very aggressive. It delivers great results, often for its viewers and for the talent who it has in its stories. This is why these matters often settle, isn't it? Because they might be saying unpleasant things to one another or joking in an unpleasant way about politicians or business figures or celebrities. But they also might be agreeing that the boss is an idiot or the company
What's the story about Amy McCarthy?
Gloating about how they can't believe ARN signed a $200 million deal with them in the first place.
She's been in The Current Affair running the show for the better part of a year now.
Judges are smarter
she went
than
along to
allowing
the
a business to use
now,
the court
she's
process
decided
to
to do
just
something
get rid
that
of
I think
contracts
most
they don't
people
like,
now
right?
appreciate isn't a great idea, and that's going to a work event and juggling it with social media. Never a great formula for success.
Every day,
she's at the Logies and she's posting about how she's going to get drunk and she's letting her hair down and updating it to say, lucky her phone died because all the incriminating evidence from the supposedly big night hadn't been detailed.
Get revenge against
Unfortunately, one part of it had been, and that was a photo she'd taken of Jimmy Barnes performing on stage with the message, deserves a spot on the grid, hashtag would still do him. Obviously, this was something that was a joke, you'd imagine, but it's been shared throughout the office and the network. By the time I was made aware of it, I think it had done the rounds of pretty much every newsroom in the network in the country. And the issue at stake was,
as he
a
says,
female
he's got
boss
to pay, just like
posting
everyone
messages
else.
about Jimmy Barnes. If a
I'm
male
sure he's
boss
that
had
in
made
touch with a
similar
common
comments
person, actually.
Well, I was going to say, just like everyone else who owns a mansion has been earning,
how would that have been
$790,000
so the issue
a month.
Well, that's
deal
the
with
sort of money that you
is
never need to work again.
They've made
but
a very
Kyle
strong stance on cultural reform at the network. They want to modernise it, ensure that everyone works in a respectful environment, which has to be admired. And one rule for some, one rule for another, that's not going to wash with their staff. So it's something that is
until this is played out
within Nine, and
a
lot of questions raised about the appropriateness of making these comments, whether they're a joke or not.
The context to this is Nine Entertainment has $2.6 billion in revenue per annum. It's an absolutely massive organisation which owns the Nine Network television station, the Stan streaming platform and print mastheads including the Sydney Morning Herald and The Age. It's a huge employer in Australian media, but profit is down 30% to $189 million at the last annual report. And it's had to go through a huge cultural change since the highlight our audience would remember of former Chairman Peter Costello knocking to the ground the Australian's reporter Liam Mendes when he tried to ask Peter Costello about cultural issues at the network.
You do have a lot of empathy for people.
You've just assaulted me
because you know anyone who goes through court, it's like a heartbreaking process.
You've just pushed
I've given
me.
evidence 3 times.
It's all on camera, Mr. Costello.
Every time going up there to give evidence and know that you're going to be
They commissioned
grilled,
a report about what was going on internally at the company, which said that female staff felt that they weren't listened to, that there was a culture of bullying.
It's one of those things.
Now they've got senior female executives who are allegedly behaving in the ways that maybe male executives behaved in the past. It's a tricky spot for Nine, isn't it?
It
is, but I think once you go down that rabbit hole of going, we're taking this politically correct line, zero tolerance
now, newsrooms
on
are very stressful
comments of this nature,
and also
be they jokes,
but sometimes
be they
there are
serious,
voices
with
and
the
hot tempers.
current chief
Someone else
executive,
who's been
Matt
accused
Stanton,
of bullying
basically
is
has said
Matthew
zero
McGrain,
tolerance.
a producer
We're just
who
not going to
maybe
have
not
any of
many
this.
people would have heard
And if
of.
there's zero
But he
tolerance,
got himself
everyone
involved
knows
in a
the rules
dispute
and
with
there'll be
Network
no
7.
problems. But once you go
Now
down
that's
that
been
path,
resolved. What's happened there?
there's very little wiggle room.
Exactly
so what it
we're
means
sort of
is,
talking about
I suppose the Jocelyn era journalists are quite famous for having gallows humour in their newsroom. Those days are gone. It's a very corporate atmosphere. So I have to say, credit to them. If you're going to apply the rule to some people, it's got to apply to everyone.
And next thing you know, they've gone
Coming
through
up,
all
how
these
do you
emails,
fix a
they've spoken
culture
to
like
all his
Nine's?
colleagues, and they've come up with their argument, their defence, which is he's a misogynist and a bully who
It's
picks
a
on women in
huge
the
ship
newsroom.
to turn around
Again,
the culture of an
untested
organisation like
claims,
that, isn't it?
but
Because
it's
Nine
aired
was
publicly
famous
for
under
the
the
first time
ownership of
last
the Packer
month.
family
All of a sudden,
for being
the
not only
case is
extremely
slightly
successful
settled. I'm
and
told
a
he's now
place where
leaving without
you
very
might say
much
that
money,
standards in the workplace
because,
were a little more loose
that
than
is
in
just
other
gonna be
places. There was
devastating
drinking
to his
on the
reputation,
premises,
even having
there
those
were huge
allegations
parties,
played out.
there were lavish
There's also
gifts
these
from the
unseemly
employers to
claims
all
about
the
him
staff,
using the ABC's
immense
flagship,
marketing campaigns where they would
investigative
take
show
over
as
Bronte Beach and spend 3
bargaining
days
chip in his
shooting
own
an ad
personal
campaign.
combo
Yeah, he brought this into the public domain by appearing in a story by Louise Media on Footballers, which was basically about how evil networks are.
How do the new managers of Nine, who have got to run it like a 21st century company,
have a
tone down that culture of excess?
Interviewee,
the largest has been a topic of legend for decades.
It was a great
we're talking about a TV network that famously had a wet bar up on the executive level that all staff were invited to on a Friday night. Now, the theory behind that was put on drinks for all your journos and execs on a Friday night, and they effectively do hours of free overtime because they come up and they're talking about what story I should do. And the idea was it's a bonding session, but really they're, for the price of a few drinks each, they're spending hours extra. I think those days have gone for every enterprise, be there a banker, an accountancy firm, and it is a massive cultural shift. It's part of the process of audiences expecting a higher level of professionalism, but even the industry is itself being more professional. And we've seen this within Nine going, right, well, this is what our shareholders expect. It's what our audiences expect. There is a responsibility on us to have impeccable behaviour standards because we expect them from the people we report on. As you say, with the current affair, something dodgy happens in a workplace, they're at the front with cameras. How dare you do this? How do you think you're going to get away with this? Pushing cameras in people's faces. So if they're going to give it out,
and to be fair
they've
to
got
him,
to take it
his
back that
allegation
they did the wrong
against Seven
thing.
in that Four Corners
and in all
report
cases,
was that they
better
had,
just not to do the wrong
not treated
thing.
him fairly. And
but as
not
we've seen,
taken into
it is a
account
gradual
his
process.
disability.
You
He
can't
used a
just
wheelchair
be the fun police and come in overnight and expect everyone to be straighty 180 serious all the time. It's about finding that middle ground between what is appropriate banter in the workplace, more importantly, what's appropriate to put on social media, because that's the real defining thing here. You can have a joke with someone at the table next to you, obviously, but making these sort of comments publicly when you're known as a news boss and you are a representative of that organisation, that's a very different question. And we saw that again this week with an email that was sent into a current affair asking could the host of a current affair, Alison Langdon, refer to police officers as such rather than calling them cops. The response they received was an email back from the generic current affair account telling them not to be a narc. So, just in this
everyone's having a crack.
Again, zero tolerance.
She's claimed that Nine is both ageist and sexist. Obviously, Nine is defending that.
But is there a risk that as media organisations haven't gone down well with their colleagues, that they lose the magic? Do you end up crushing the magic of stars like, say, Karl Stefanovic, who said at this year's Logies he wished they were a little bit more fun? He's beloved by the audience because he's cheeky and quirky and different and a little bit edgy. Is there a risk there of making it too bland?
Younger women weren't
definitely.
And
Carl's a great example.
Her job was
because at the end of the day, we're humans, and the news is here, as we all know. It's to inform, but importantly, it's here to entertain as well. So you can't take out that reporters who are. I mean, that's why Carl's successful. It's why he's on $3 million a year. Let's face it, is because he's having fun, and people see that, and they have fun listening to him. So you don't want to make it boring. You don't want to make it bland. And these shows are still big money spinners. A Current Affair is the highest rating national news and public affairs program every night of the week still. Carl does a great job on the Today Show, and he's responsible. The reason he gets paid so much as he brings in advertisers because people like him. It's a real balancing act that Nine have to perform
literally
here
decades,
to see,
and
all right, how much is fun,
very
how serious do we have to be, and what do we expect from our staff, and there will be slip-ups. Plus,
she sat down with head of news Fiona Deer in the cafe downstairs at North Sydney headquarters of Nine, and Fiona said, no, your job's not a risk.
Sent a message or posted something they later regretted.
I feel for Fiona Deer because Fiona Deer probably wouldn't have known that job was targeted for redundancy.
Steve Jackson's media diary is unmissable. You can read it right now at theaustralian.com.au.
Hey, next week we're going to sack you. That stuff like that just doesn't happen. But it's also not a binding contract. It doesn't mean anything. If you tell me that I deserve a pay rise, it doesn't mean I march into payroll the next day and go, Claire's promised me the pay rise, where's the form? It's just it's a nicety, it's a pleasantry. What does it mean? Nothing, as Amber's found out.
Well, Jacko, I can assure you that as far as I'm aware right now, you are not about to be replaced by some hot young 25-year-old.
Oh, well, good luck to him.
Thanks for joining me.
All right, thank you for having me on.